Finished our plan of this timber frame shed. We're just going to add the cladding, add insulation, and add a little bit of trim just to explain how this works. So we drew these red lines, and these red lines were just a guide to help us understand where everything went. Now we need to replace that. What we're really trying to show is the representation of this fiber cement weatherboard cladding. Now we allowed for 33 millimeters, so that was measured from the outside of the cladding to the inside of the cladding. But we can see that the cladding's not actually 33 millimeters. Now if we're cutting it through horizontally, we see that equates to about 16 millimeters. So in order to show that properly, I'm going to pick up the settings of this, and I'm going to draw in each of those cladding elements, and I'm going to do it at 16 millimeters. Now I don't need to think about stopping those, I can just draw them full length. And at the moment I'm not going to worry about corners. And one more. Now, practically speaking, if I could get these to overlap, that would be better. I'm not going to miter them, so I'm just going to butt joint. I'm going to take the shorter ones and just overlap them that way. Practically speaking, there might be maybe like a millimeter gap between, but in reality, we don't need to show that. It's not necessary in terms of the representation. Then outside of that, I want to communicate that there's the rest of the weatherboard viewed in elevation. So in order to show that, what would it look like? Well, we'd be seeing it disappear into the distance, and so we can pick up the same type of thing, or we can either copy this, drag a copy, stretch it out so it's going the rest of the way for my 33 millimeters, and I'll change this to be my gradient linear fill, and I'll move the gradient linear fill from here to there, and then I'll change its representation because I want it to go from a medium gray to basically white. Again, this is not at all necessary, but it's just a nice way of trying to explain that we're viewing our weatherboard sort of disappearing into the distance. In order to make this easy, I'll drag a copy and rotate it. Now we can see the problem. We've got this large gap, and we're going to have to deal with this gap. Of course, it's a reality. Move, mirror a copy. Move, mirror a copy. I'll just extend this one the whole way, and then I'll trim it. Split, split, delete, split, split, delete, and the last corner. Great. I'll get rid of all of those red lines now. So edit, find and select, pick up the settings. So I'll click option to pick up that. I'll go add. In this case, I want it to be the line pen. So it's going to pick up all the red ones. And then in one go, I can delete them all because I don't want them to be there. Again, what are we seeing at the moment? We're representing a floor plan. So this is representing pretty clearly as to what it should be. Now, what do I do about these corners? That's going to look really ugly on the corner. So in order to make this nicely finished, what I want to have is timber trim around the outside. In order to do that timber trim, it's going to need to be at least 90 mil, and that'll be 18 mil. Mirror a copy. And so I'll have trim running vertically up the outside of these. And of course, what we'll see there is there's a bit of a gap. So we can either leave that gap exposed. The problem with that, we might end up getting some animals in there, some spiders, or of course, the way to fix that would be to then fill that gap. But that's about the best way we can create a nice finished detail for the weatherboard. Mirror a copy, move those to the other side, same sort of idea. And that of course will be fixed through the weatherboard into the stud. Move, mirror a copy. Great. In this case, I'll just do this the other direction, just so it's got more fixing. Now, one more thing. Let's grab the insulation. Drag a copy. And we're going to fill all of these areas. So remember, when we're trying to stretch the insulation, one side makes it shorter, one side changes the angle. Drag multiple copies. I'll just place them and then I'll adjust them. Move, drag a copy. This one should be a bit faster. Let's make this one perfect. Move, drag multiple copies. I think I've missed this one slightly up. Yeah. All right, let's try to fix that. Drag multiple copies. Copy this one up. Multiply, let's do that a bit faster this time. And I'll drag that back because I think that one's a bit smaller. Mirror this to the other side. And then copy to fill the last holes. So now we've finished off our floor plan. So we've got exterior cladding, interior lining. We've got our door we've got our windows. We can copy these and create architraves. Now we could use different type of architraves. I'm just trying to keep it real simple. And normally when we do this architrave, we won't have it sit completely on this timber, so we might off-center it, say 10 millimeters, something like that. So our floor plan's complete. And next we're going to be having a look at how to create elevations, which will basically just be projecting what we've created in order to explain how the framing will work. So it's very similar to what we see. We're just going to need to be adding a little bit more detail and explaining what happens above and below the windows and what happens above the door. And then finally with our roof, how do we do the roof framing? So at the moment we've been focusing on the wall framing. We'll finish that off in elevation, and then we'll have a look at how the roof framing works as well.